I'm Gavin McPherson from Oasis Property. So I'm the CEO of the company and have been for a while now. But that said, initial founder of the company. We do buyer's agency as our primary service, and we also include conveyancing, property management, and finance services as well. Look, I think the North Sydney property market is a little individual patch of dirt, totally separate from the rest of the North Shore. That's not to say it doesn't have similarities, but certainly by its high rise and its density, but still gaining that leafiness, it does stand out as a little bit different, and attracts certainly downsizers. Certainly busy professionals that need to stay close to their transport, because obviously if you understand, if you just cross that little bridge just there, which takes you over to down Falcon Street, down to Military Road, they do deviate away from more accessible transport, specifically the train. So that's certainly the first thing that comes to mind, which attracts that type of people, which is those young, busy professionals. And certainly one thing I'm seeing right now, which is a lot of downsizers who want to live in something really close to the city, but don't want the pulse of the city. So that attracts them to the high rises with some views, certainly, and definitely around Margaret Street and the top of those proximities there, which gives them close access to the harbour. But that said, they don't have to pay for some of the premiums they do elsewhere as well. As a general proposition for buying, I always suggest that they take their time. But the one thing you'll find in the North Shore specifically, and definitely North Sydney, is the lack of stock. There certainly isn't a great amount of stock on the market. So the first thing that people have to do is take a design timeline of, I would argue, 12 to 18 months. And specifically because there's that low stock on the market, you do have to be careful to not get into a frame of mind where you're thinking this is the only one I'm going to buy, because there's always another one. And also, because of that, at the area that we're living, you do have a predisposition for a lot of properties to keep returning to the market if they don't get a satisfactory answer, because we are in a generally affluent area. And if they don't get their desired price that they're after, well, they tend to take it from the market and put it on again after. And because of that, seeing a buyer's agent, or certainly getting to know your friendly real estate agents, is to ask them what property perhaps was tried to sell 2 years ago and it's coming back on the market again. So that's my first rule, I would say, is take some time specifically. Secondly, this is one of the greatest areas insofar as I would argue the eclectic mix of properties. You've got high rises, one bedroom studio, all the way up to big grand estates, all in a 3-kilometre radius, I would argue. So your choice is absolutely unbelievable. But I would argue from a positive slant, it doesn't have the grunge that it does in the eastern suburbs, and certainly definitely that inner city. So people do, and I think fairly, I don't think it's politically incorrect to say something like this, but it has a bit more of a safer element than some of those other areas, which are arguably much more expensive than here as well. So I think it's definitely got a lot of upside as well. Our job is to make sure that we've seen everything in the market. I mean, I articulated before that you need to be in the market for a period of 12 to 18 months to get a really good gauge of what you're after, and to see a whole suite of properties to know that when you found the right one, that's it. So the first thing that a buyer's agent is got to understand that market over an extended period of time. One person decides to jump in the market today, for instance, it's very likely that they have got no idea what happened 6 months ago, and certainly 6 months before that. So certainly a buyer's agent has that fundamental assessment of the market on an ongoing basis. Furthermore, it is that access to off-market properties, which is very important. And one thing, look, it certainly changes with market conditions. So I won't lie and say that this has been like this all the time, but certainly in the last year, more than 60% of our properties in the North Shore have been transacted off the market. And that's basically property that anyone else wouldn't have any access to. So I would say that's certainly the second thing. And thirdly, of course, is the art of negotiation. And that's not necessarily going in and argy-bargy with the agent and headbutting them or anything like that, but it's absolutely, I think from the very first step of them introducing you, and certainly Oasis Property Buyers, for instance, most agents know us and can see us coming. They don't fool us by underquoting and bait pricing and things like that. We can usually get to a square one base price very, very quickly and know that if that was appropriate for us or not. For those that know us, we've been around for over 10 years now on the North Shore, but specifically we are a little bit of a different business as well. Most people know us primarily as buyers agents, which is what we are. We've bought over $1 billion of property over a period of 10 years, up to $2 billion, but who's counting at the moment? But what happened is specifically in 2003 and 2004, most people remember the property boom. We were born out of that busyness and those transactions that really required quick response transactions. And to do that, we've also bolted on other businesses on the top of that. So that included our conveyancing service, which is the first business to be bolted on, our finance service, and then lastly our property management services. So those four businesses together that really support a good, clean, I suppose, one-stop shop transaction service entity. That primarily, actually, our first service clients or large client base was actually expatriates from overseas, because it's a really easy way to transact. And then going forward, obviously, as people got to know us and trust us, we've been around for 10 years and more than likely be around here for the next 20 as well. So that's certainly given us a good reputation, something as a good base to build our business on.